Tiago Galberto is a visual artist and researcher at the Museu Afro Brasil, and he is currently working on his master's degree in visual arts at the University of São Paulo, working with a former visiting scholar, Daria Jaremchuk, who was at Brown in recent years and has closely collaborated with us. Tiago was born in Igarapé, a small city in the state of Minas Gerais, and lives in São Paulo. And since 2007, he has established a strong presence at the Afro-Brazil Museum, the country's most prestigious organization dedicated to the exhibition of art, focusing on the black presence in Brazilian society. Outside of Brazil, he has participated in various collective exhibits, such as the Bienal da Valença, Encuentros entre dos Mares in Spain, 2007, and the Afro-Brazil Art and Identities at the National Hispanic Cultural Center in Albuquerque, New Mexico, in 2015. He did a residence at the Tamarin Institute, which is part of the New Mexican University, during the project Afro, Black Identity in America and Brazil in 2012. And during that year, he stood out as one of the finalists in visual arts category in the Programa Nascente, promoted by the Pro-Reitoria da Cultura e Extensão da University of São Paulo. And in 2015, became one of the finalists of the Bolsa Funarte do Fomento aos Artistas e Produtores Negros, which is the biggest prize destined to Afro-Brazilian artists. And we're really honored that you're going to be here, not only for your event, but we'll be visiting in Brown for this month, and we're happy to have you here, Tiago. Welcome.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. To begin, I'd like to thank the Brazil Initiative and the Washington Institute for the invitation, especially Professor James Green and Helen Starr, and everyone else involved in the production and realization of this event. It's a great honor to participate in the programming of the Brazil Initiative. Without a doubt, this is one of the most prolific and respected spaces outside of Brazil to reflect on the political and cultural scene inside Brazil. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks so much. I hope of the next half hour to present a summary of series of interventions realized in partnership with the community of the small city of Igarapé, where I was born, of the state of Minas Gerais. In this story, information on the social context of this community, as well as image and a small video about these actions will be present. I will be very happy to hear questions, critiques, and suggestions. And I hope that everyone can productively take advantage of this opportunity for exchange. Thank you again to everyone. A cloud washed away by the sea. No man is an island, entire itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the mind. If a cloud be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less, as well as a promontory, where, as well as a manner of fine, friends of fine, anywhere. Any man's death diminishes me, because I'm involved in mankind, and therefore never send to know for room. The bell tolls, it tolls for teeth. Oh, sorry. No man is an island has certainly become for some optimists a popular saying. For others, it's a fragile cliché. Nonetheless, in a historical period marked by such significant change, the English poet John Donne was able to establish a northward image. Among the countless possibilities of interpretation, I'm drawn to think of isolation as a double action of forgetfulness. Those who remain on the continent are left to imagine a plant out in the sea. As for the cloud washed away, it must keep going amidst it, a past in constant transformation. History, therefore, presents us a space of tensions between a feeling of belonging and the recognition of it. Although inaudible to those who have left, the perpetual tolling of bells offer the hope of cohesion, perhaps more for those who remain than those who have gone away. Along this scene of challenges, of suffering, profound discoveries, and intense mercantilization, Europe's territorial expansions would transform modern world geography, but an infinite range of relationships. It's approximately between 1750 and 1770, as England was consolidated as an economic power due to its more and more intense process of industrialization, that the captains of Minas Gerais reached its peak as a source of extraction of gold and diamond. These relations between England and Portugal during these centuries would feature the regiment of complex systems of exploration in colonial life, economic treaties, the slave trade, the movement of abundance of European immigrants, an intense flow of them in the territory of the colony, among other things. To maintain a strong slave base, unlike the sugar industry, mine established strong ties with the urban trends in Brazil. This flexibility of mine society, capable of tying together set heterogeneous combinations of intellectuals, artists, landowners, merchants, and temporary workers, allowed that by the mid-1700s, the enslaved originally from diverse African populations still represented more than half of the population in Minas Gerais. With the advantage of the abolition of slavery in 1888 and the establishment of the Republic, the apparent liberty offered by the transition from a colonial to a capitalist regime offered to the vast majority of black populations who inhabited Minas Gerais led to nothing. The inhuman working conditions in the mines for the extraction of the wealth counter on an enormous population without income, organized either in marrow societies or scattered among the peripheries of the urban centers and rural areas. The decline in mining in the principal regions in exploration due to the paralysis in discovery of source and technological inefficiency for the extraction of gold present in very hard bedrock, lead the agricultural economy initially marked by rural diversification to be reborn. Castelo Branco Avenue, 161, Resplendor Neighborhood, Igarapé. This is the address of my family residence since 1998. This small house is located between the borders of the three younger cities in metropolitan regions on the capital of Minas Gerais, Belo Horizonte. The municipalities of São Joaquim de Bicas, Brumadinho, and Igarapé were founded respectively in 1997, 1938, 1962. They are very young cities in Minas. These small cities are similar to many others who had their urban centers founded at the margin of BR-381 Fernão Dias, a highlight that connects São Paulo to Belo Horizonte. They have been formed especially at transit routes and with a largely low-income population. In this region, it's custom to add some the red soil reaching iron ore to the cement past. This way, in addition to resistance, an economy of cinder blocks is equivalent to a great value for these populations, who spend a great part of their lives in the process of building their homes. Many times the color of the soil gets mixed up with the color of homes, the buildings, materials, and vegetation covering the dust. Can you see São Paulo here? Rio de Janeiro is exactly in the middle. One of the mining companies present in this environment is MMX Sudeste, a company that belongs to entrepreneur Eike Batista. This company is responsible for the exploration of the area located between the vicinity of the Resplendor neighborhood and Contemporary Art Center in Inhotim. In this map, you can see the big mine area, big mine here, start here and continues. Inhotim, yes sir. Inhotim is a particular property that belongs to the entrepreneur in the mine industry known as Bernardo Paz. The site is about 60 kilometers from Belo Horizonte and 20 kilometers from the Fernão Dias BR-381 highway in the city of Brumadinho. Though it has been involved in controversies such as accusations of environmental crimes, the violation of authorial rights, and money laundering, the Institute received, since its open to the public in 2006, more than 2 million visitors. Recognized nationally and internationally, this space exhibits, conserve and serve as a setting for the productions of work of contemporary art over an area of 140 hectares. This space expands more each year, housing one of the largest collections of contemporary art in Latin America. When the visitor reaches the museum, they are enchanted by the garden, the works of art, musical performance, a play, a signature, a private event, the restaurant, a shop with licensed products, etc. This is Antonio Grassi, the executive director of this contemporary art space. Inhotim, Mr. Tim, Massa Tim. According to the Inhotim Center of Memory and Patrimony, creating 28, the various possibilities of the origin of the name of the institute would be related to the corruption of naming of local residents, of the name of the previous owner of the land where the park is located. This man of English origin, Sir Timothy or Mr. Tim, could have generated the nickname Inhotim, meaning Massa Tim. Also according to research of the Inhotim Center of Memory and Patrimony. There is a travel story of the British engineer James Well throughout Brazil between 1868 and 1886. At a particular moment, he remembered a conversation with a black worker on a road close to Brumadinho. The local parlance indicates that the word Inhotim could be corruption of the expression used by slaves to say, yes, sir, yes, master, in Portuguese, Inho sim. The existence of Quilombola communities in the municipality of Brumadinho, 4 of them recognized by the Fundação Palmares, strengthens the hypothesis. Nevertheless, the word Inhotim, seen in isolation, confer ambiguities, because it's about a rural community in existence since 1870 in the city of Brumadinho, with a population of approximately 300 inhabitants between 1995 and 2005. The community of Inhotim was displaced as a result of the land expansion of the Inhotim Center of Contemporary Art. The buying of houses, schools, churches, and even health posts was done by the entrepreneur Bernardo Paz to then build the gardens, pavilions, and galleries of the new Inhotim. Hacking to Inhotim, authored by the journalist and writer Valdir de Castro Oliveira, is one of the first published testimonies to position itself critically regarding the end of this community in Brumadinho. Valdir Oliveira mentions the following in an interview. In spite of the good prices paid for the local properties, this did not replace or eliminate the sense of loss and the subject aspect of community living. Various community symbols were unilaterally destroyed, and the promise of the reconstruction were never fulfilled. Mood. According to the Brazilian Institute of Geography and Statistics, 17% of the GDP of Minas Gerais derives from the industry of mineral extraction. Minas Gerais possesses, according to data from the National Department of Mineral Production, 662 registered tailing dams, 339 of them included in the National Policy of Dam Security, and 185 of them classified as having severe potential damage associated with them. MMX possesses 2 tailing dams of iron ore in Igarapé. They are B1 Tico and B2 Tico Tico. In May 2015, these 2 areas were closed temporarily by the National Department of Mineral Production due to the lack of plan of emergency action. This work of inspection was only reinforced by the impact caused by the tragedy of the Fundão Dam of the mining company Samarco, property of the company Vale do Rio Doce, one of the principal sponsors of Inhotim Contemporary Art Space, and the Anglo-Australian multinational with headquarters in Melbourne, Pate P. Billington. The disasters that occur at the Fundão Dam, located in the Bento Rodrigues district, belongs to the city of Mariana. On November 5, 2050, this dam broke, destroying 80% of the district. The mud, originating from the tailing dam, covers 600 kilometers and damaged more than 30 municipalities in the state of Minas Gerais and Espírito Santo, affecting around 3.2 million people, until reaching the coastline of the state through the basin of the Rio Doce. The break of the dam killed 19 people. The families affected by the mud of iron ore are still await justice. Sacolé, a cross between the Portuguese word for bag, saco, and popsicle, picolé, is the name of the residents of the current city of Rio de Janeiro called Chup Chup, a popular homemade ice cream sold in Minas Gerais. In the city of Igarapé, especially in Resplendor neighborhood, it is possible to find many residents that sell this sweet ice cream as a strategy to increase income. 60-year-old Martíria Nunes Pinto lives in São Joaquim de Bicas and sells the popular homemade ice cream at the margin of Transinhotim to complement her husband's pensions. With an extension of 15 kilometers, the Transinhotim Highway was recently created to connect the Fernão Dias Highway to the municipality of Brumadinho, making possible not only the transport of ore by the trucks, but also to become a route of entrance to Inhotim almost 8 kilometers shorter than the one currently used by visitors. In an interview to the reporter Paola Carvalho from the journal Estado de Minas in 2014, Martíria declared, "The asphalt is very good, but we need to spend bulbs to reduce the speed of the trucks that are always passing. They speed by and even killed my dog Susie." According to the reporter, Martíria lives in a very simple house with a wall covered in the grain of iron ore that is left behind with the passing of each vehicle. And there are more than a few. At the beginning of Friday afternoon, in 10 minutes, 23 trucks passed. And so, is it Brazil? This recovery of their occurrence and local stories is being included in an attempt to exemplify what I'm calling a setting under administration control. In this version of the facts, the colonial past, the exploration of land and slavery as an institution seems to establish, for example, points of contact with present facts such as environmental disasters by mining companies, the corruption involved governments and multinational, mass tourism, and the international system of contemporary art. But are these connections eye-catching? What is the effective importance of these questions to apprehend an artistical purpose? How can one circumvent the great seduction present in these themes and still provoke a debate about the pertinence of this occurrence for the populations directly involved and for the world of contemporary art? It's likely that these questions become more severe when it becomes evident, as pointed rightly by Professor Liliane Benetti, the move of autobiographical memory to universalization by honor itself. Apple proposed an intervention in the neighborhood where I grew up with the initial impulse to introduce fissures and ruptures in these historical and local political narratives. There is the risk of reproducing already enshrined programs of the representation of the authority, statization, the periphery, and adapting expectations that are projected ample contemporary artist productions that aim to be political commutated. In this manner, the artist intervention I have realized in the city of Igarapé sought to stretch and make ambiguous any expectation about my role as an artist come from this specific locale, as well as an expectation about artist objects themselves. In this sense, the project Souvenir from Massatim, Lembrança de Inhotim, seeks to become the fuse for problematization of the action of contemporary art and its various components. The public it tends to reach the habitual locales where it is present, the importance of its materiality, the market value of the artist object, and pertinence of various narrative constructual contact with the object. Well, now I'd like to show you a short video that I made. It's only 7 minutes long. Right after showing, I will briefly describe the intervention that I named it Souvenir from Massatim. Não. Não espera um monte. Que país, olha. Dá um segundinho. And this beautiful song was performed by a Brazilian musician named Saulo Bartoloso, a friend, and all the images were recorded in the city of Igarapé by me and by my friend João Alves. Design for failure, design for absence, design for memory, being without a place to live, not being comfortable in all skin. This poetry from the American contemporary art Gordon Martha Clark, is a light for my ideas, although he would talking about a specific urban space and not a rural community as Igarapé. This project encompasses, therefore, an object produced on a large scale. Around 5,000 units were produced in a small workshop with the participation of the residents of the Resplendor neighborhood in Igarapé. The object is composed of the mixture of cement and soil-rich and iron ore. The format of the souvenir is similar to the popular homemade ice from various Brazilian regions. Thus, this practice is the central axis of a series of interventions realized in the region that encompasses part of the main cities of Igarapé, São Joaquim de Bicas, and Brumadinho. The project Souvenir from Assatim was awarded a prize with a scholarship destined to black artists and research by the Ministry of Culture in 2015. This financing made the execution of this project possible in 2016. This artist research also composed the subject of my master in the School of Communication Arts of the University of São Paulo with my advisor, Professor Daria Jarenchuk. The set of the interventions realized around the production and sale of these objects, as well as the title, Souvenir from Assatim, makes use of variation of the name attributed to the famous center of contemporary art, Inhotim. Due to the distinct sounds of its title, in Portuguese of course, this object attempts to simulate not only being a souvenir destined to the countless visitors to this center of contemporary art, but also to be evocative of questions regarding who is Massatim, Inhotim, and its possible meanings. However, in the process of realizing this project, collective memories of the resident populations in the Resplendor neighborhood as well as my autobiographical memories become more and more evident. However, it's important to clarify the ambiguity of the expression Inhotim and its direct relationship to a colonial past and a history of slavery. According to a linguistic professor from the Institute for the Study of Language at the University of Campinas, Tânia Alckmin, the language of blacks, a variation on the Portuguese used in the forming of black characters in literature and cultural production since the 16th century, represent the linguistic counterpart of the images of black in Portuguese society. In Portugal, as in all of the regions that use slave labor, black were associated with a biological, cognitive, and cultural inferiority. From a linguistic point of view, a superficial examination of data on black language makes us immediately recognize the stereotype nature of the representation of the speech of blacks. The intention is clear, to emphasize the foreign origin of black through the use of incorrect grammatical constructions and pronunciation. Blacks, as many other popular types, gypsies, Jews, peasants, those in the province, were targets of a prejudice and discriminating gaze that selected and stereotyped its characteristics and features. For the author, to establish the existence in Brazil of a white Portuguese and a black Portuguese is a reductive and simplistic vision of questions of linguistic representations, through its points to limits that all of the writing source present in relationship to originally orally. Senhor, senhorzinho, and yo are all variations of the term senhor, master, mister, broadly used in the representation of the speech of black characters in Brazil literature of the 19th century. Among the artistic interventions realized last year, the first involved a circuit to exhibit the souvenir in 12 sites around in existence in the city of Igarapé, especially in the Resplendor neighborhood. In these sites, the sale of the souvenir is carried out by the residents participating in the network at an initial value of R$4.99. This value is equivalent of $1.50. 200 units of these objects were donated to each of the participant establishments, and as part of an agreement, all of the income obtained from sales remains with the owners of the objects, all residents of the city. In order to accomplish this, it was necessary to have countless encounters, conversations, visits, and exchange. Each participant contributed in a different way and a different degree. The fact that I belong to the community made it much easier to establish these dialogues. So I'm here in the most important public school in the city, my neighborhood. The choice points include evangelical church. The pastor Hercy was one of the first residents of the Resplendor neighborhood. I attended religion service and present my proposal. The adherence to the project was a collective decision of all of the congregants of the church. The small Resplendor neighborhood has around 50 evangelical churches. A small city in front of a public school, a small food market. A short video record was made at each of these spaces. For this, I had the support of cameraman João Alves. These videos are available on the internet. A bar where it's common to find ex-workers from the mining companies meeting to drink. Next to this bar is a place selling fruits and vegetables. A bench with the souvenirs was also accepted there. A shop with home appliances. The family of Simone is her, participated in the production of the souvenirs. All of these works in the workshop of production of souvenirs was paid for by the financing of the prize offered by the Minister of Culture. A beauty salon. Solange is the owner. Like Simone and all of the others, she was the one to decide the location, to install the bench, and how to organize the objects. After the installation, Simone and Solange decided to reconfigure their shops with the souvenirs. And finally, we have the principal public school of the city and the sex shop. Claudia is the owner of this small sex shop, the only one in the region. She is also a teacher of art education in the principal school, and she was my teacher during my entire adolescence. Foundational elements in the setting up of this project were the installation of the campaign of communication that included 3 billboards along the BR-381 highway, close to the site where the objects were sold, the creation of the posters, pamphlets, radio announcements along the streets of the Resplendor neighborhood, the publication of teaser videos and photographic images on social medias, on different web platforms, and finally, the elaboration of a website about this project. The second big intervention was the production of the party, opened to the public during the showing of Passage on the Overground Memories in Territorialities, realizing in the House of Culture of the City of Igarapé on September 11, 2016. In addition to present 8 new works I adored especially for this showing, the event mobilized diverse publics, including academic, politicians, specialists in visual art, and a great number of residents of the region, including the participants in the circuit selling the souvenir. During the musical performance in capoeira, the distribution of sweeties and the of lunch, the visitor circulates among the artistic works. Many of these visitors come up against a long bench full of souvenirs and did not hesitate to take one or two of them for free as a souvenir of that moment. At this moment, the souvenir from Massatin became even more ambiguous as to their autonomy as an artist object. While the format of the souvenirs is associated with the populace, it's undeniable that their hardness and weight and adaptation to the hand increase their phallic aspect. In this sense, the souvenir from Massatin brings us back to subject I dedicate myself to artistically, such as the various way in which black bodies are encountered, the semi bodies that walk the land and are covered with its dust. Sterilized, petrified bodies due to the action of the dust and ore and the violence that projected more and more against this population. This is the bench. The third intervention was the creation of a performance entitled Souvenir from Massatin for 1499. This action was realized in 4 different sites, 2 central locations in city of Igarapé, one in São Joaquim de Bicas, and at the principal entrance to the Inhotim Center of Contemporary Art in the city of Brumadinho. In this action, recorded by photography, images, and video, I sell a small number of souvenirs from Massatin using some commercial strategies practiced by street vendors. Not one souvenir was acquired during this performance. Many of the perceive did not know if this action was a regular sale of souvenirs from the Contemporary Art Center or an act linked to the space of the institution itself. Considering the physical proximity between the mines companies, the communities itself, and Inhotim, this performance seeks to bring together the different kind of belonging of the object and my condition as contemporary visual arts. This intervention that showed the process of creation, development, and presentation of the souvenir from Massatin are born from the investigation of the conceptual relationship between territoriality and memory through a proposal of artistic dialogue. I wish to argue how a determined locality can act symbolically in the production of contemporary art. This debate, which is not new in the world of art, makes possible a broad discussion about the convergence and divergence of artist production and social, cultural, and political context they are involved in. In other words, allow us to elaborate these questions through the possible local particularity of art. However, if the initial objective was the opportunity to create small ruptures and divisions in the uniform line of the official narratives of this specific location and its history, what I have realized, even with many doubts, is the power to inscribe new histories, individual and collective, shared and autobiographic, through the presence of this object. This has demanded great attention and care with the traps present in artist work itself. A great challenge in which I am immersed and also very happy to share with all of you. Many thanks for all who listened to this story. Thank you.
Ask questions, you can call on them and you can answer. I'll make a comment. So, we met at a party in São Paulo, and, you were already invited to come, I think, when we met, and you gave me this gift,
Yeah.
and I didn't understand it at all. And I took it home and I opened it up and I thought, this reminds me of picolé, this looks very phallic. What is the idea? So, first of all, thank you for understanding the context of this. So, do tourists acquire the souvenir, or is this an intervention in I mean, is it an attempt to have an alternative tourist object for people to buy as an economic means of support, or is it a critique of the tourism that's kind of revolved in the neighborhood, given the park and things like that?
I like the idea of the both. I like the idea to the impossibilities to tourism access this object, because look danger, look, it's so close to unity, but it's the way to go there. But initially I have fantasies, the tourists buy this object, but I need to figure out how to choose the most important persons in this history. So this neighborhood is the most important. So I don't care if the tourists don't get it, but
I mean, it seems like it seems what you're doing in a way is to me it seems like it's a very critique of this beautiful. I've heard about this place. I've wanted to go. People say I must go there. It's going to be upper middle class, mostly white people who go to it as an intellectual experience of contemporary art. They will pass through towns like your town, and they'll look, and it'll be dangerous and low class and dirty and primitive and not developed, and they will ignore it. So it's a very nice way of, I think, playing with this kind of tourism and fetishization of certain kinds of art and dismissal of other kinds of things. The tension here is the way in which Brazil tries to absorb popular culture. So at the same time you have candomblé, capoeira being performed, which tourists would love to see at a park as well, because it's something authentically Brazilian and part of our people, our black people who are part of our culture. So it's a very nice way you're playing with all that, I think.
thank you so much.
Hi, thank you so much for your presentation. I really appreciate it. I really like the pictures of the places and the people where you put the objects, and I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more of the types of conversations that you have with the people at the shops that you put your object, and whether they think it's a good representation of what it means to live in that particular space.
Well, it's hard because it's so many different levels of reaction. So, for example, in these different places, 12 places, one of them discuss about its political questions, in the other place, the childhood memories is more important. The people are so emotional when remember the chup-chup when they was child, and so I'm immersed, and I don't know exactly where I'm gonna go with this object, with this. It's in this moment is a big discovery how the people reaction of these images and these strategies that to put on the same table all these issues, because it's about art market too, it's about fetish too, not only the body fetish, but so this for each public, different kind of public, it's a different reaction. So I don't know if I'm capable to.
Thank you for your wonderful presentation. So I wanted to ask you if you could talk a little bit more about the significance of the shape of the triangle to your object. You know, a number of us will know that the state flag of Minas Gerais is in
Yeah.
fact a triangle, but I don't know if everyone knows necessarily what the significance of that symbol is historically and to the particular intervention that you're making.
Well, there's so many ways to explain about this. It's like one of the tricks of my work, artwork, because, for example, one of the demands of the most part of contemporary artworks is the monumentality. So I tried to seguir. I try to do these same strategies of the biggest contemporary artists. So like African artists, but American too. All of them use these strategies to show what actually we call contemporary art pieces. But I try to introduce this demand in the construct of this object itself. So the triangle, it's about it too, because I can, excuse me, for example, I can modulate the object and choose different position and make different works too. But like mine, you can take off one piece and the mine finish. So it's I like this answer. But in the same way, it's the triangle is the symbol of the valley. It's the symbol of Itaminas from Bernardo Paz. It's the symbol of MMX. It's a traditional symbol about ore too, iron ore. So I have so many explanations about this. It's danger. Can you see? It's danger because art so seduction this explains, but I prefer these strategies to incentive the fetish, for example, because the package is so pretty, but when you open, you are buying dusty. It's only this, and it's this conflict, it's contrast, it's my goals.
I don't know if you know this, but in 1970 something, 72 or 4 or 5, some person decided to create a pet rock. Do you know about the pet rock?
Rock.
Pet rock, o animal de estímulo, uma pedra. And he put it in a box and wrote a script around the pet rock and sold millions at Christmas time. What do you give to a person? You give them a pet rock, so you have animal de estímulo, estimação. It's yours, and it tells how to take care of it and to feed it, things like that. And so people consumed, I think it might have been, at the time, equivalent today to $15 or $8. It was just a simple rock. There was nothing special about the rock at all. Maybe it was smooth, I don't remember. So there's another way in which, when you said you open it and there's nothing there, and that's my reaction to it. I opened it and I said, well, this is weird. Like, what do I do with this? Do I put it? So the box is sitting in my, in my house, and it's a beautiful box, and I still don't know what to do with it too. So I think there's a very clever way of producing something that is disappointing in a way. Now I understand the meaning behind it of the picolé and the artistic intellectual. But so I don't know. It was a very fascinating thing. I was saying, what is going on here? I don't understand your intervention. So, yeah.
But in my presentation, I felt the necessity to explain what is chup-chup.
Yeah.
But in Brazil, especially the poor people know exactly what is. But of course, it's so phallic. It's so difficult to see the chup-chup in this sense because it's hard. descongela,
It's not melting, yeah.
melting. So it's a confused object. And I like this. I like this situation, the ambiguity, because it's so maybe it don't cost nothing. Start sale but for 40 and 99 reais. It's too cheap for a art object, but in the same way, it's possible to grow this value. So
Any other comments? If not, thank you so much for coming.
thanks so much for inviting me. I'm so happy to share. Really happy.